I stand before you this morning with an overwhelming sense of gratitude and appreciation for this congregation. Prior to August, the only thing I knew about this church was that you throw some awesome camp for kids in the summer called Windshape, and that on a Saturday morning you can snag some delicious banana nut bread out there in the parking lot. But on August 3rd, I discovered firsthand the kindness and compassionate spirit that fills the hearts of this congregation. I watched truck after truck pull into our parking lot on a Saturday morning, each one filled with tools and ladders and things that go vroom. Other than a string of emails, I hadn't met any of the cheerful faces that greeted me that day. Each person jumped in wholeheartedly and found a corner of our campus that needed some tender, loving care and got to work. I expected 6 people, but got way more than that. I met so many wonderful people that morning. The event was from 8 to noon, but you all didn't stop at noon. You stayed making sure the sidewalk was cleaned and the mulch was laid. That morning, this church served my school in such a loving way. You gave up your Saturday morning to show my staff, my students, and me what the love of Jesus can do. And every sweaty moment of that morning was so joyful. I cherished the conversations with each of you. And by the end of the work session, I felt like I was a part of this congregation. We gathered for a word, a photo, and a prayer. You didn't just pray for my school, though. You prayed for me. I had never had anyone pray for me before. And what you didn't know on that August morning was I was tired and overwhelmed, feeling like there was so much that I wanted to do for my students that I could not. That if there were just 10 more of me, I would be able to make a difference in my building. Because my students deserve a lot more than what they're getting. I was feeling defeated. But God knows our hearts and our prayers, and He had promises and plans that I didn't know about. He brought a church to my school that Saturday morning to remind me that I can do all things in Christ and that He will provide. Your pastor asked me that morning, what else could his church do for my school? And I said, I have a list. And many of our football players live in the West End, and they can't go home and eat before a game and come back. They have to stay with us because of transportation issues. And they go 6, 7, 8, 9 hours without food on those days. So I said, even a snack or a light meal or a Gatorade would be great. Well, those boys received well more than a snack on those days. Lovingly decorated bags and handwritten notes of encouragement for 35 young men. Those bags were filled to the brim with goodness. I delivered the food that you brought up to their study hall every Thursday, and it was really important to me that I spoke to them about where this food came from, who you were, and why you were feeding them. And they couldn't comprehend it. They kept asking me, why? Why are they doing this? They don't know me. I've never met them. Why would they be so nice to me? Many of these boys have never experienced grace, and they haven't experienced the kind of generosity that expects nothing in return. I told them you were a loving church and you wanted them to feel loved and supported. And each Thursday that we had this conversation, they soon began to look forward to game day, but for a different reason. Not because they were hoping to win, but because they wanted to know what the church had brought that day. They delighted in all of it: homemade chocolate chip cookies, brownies, Charlie's barbecue sandwiches, and Chick-fil-A. But the day that the notes were left in the bag was truly beautiful. It became clear to me watching them read their notes of encouragement that many of them had never received a handwritten note to them. That day, no one ate until they read their notes. The love of Jesus was in that room and in every single bag. I had a big item on my wish list, and I shared it with your staff, not really thinking anything would come from it because it was a very, very big ask. I had spent the better part of 2 years begging the district to give me resources and funds to improve our locker rooms so that our students had a place that was not only functional, but a place that they felt proud of. They were a neglected, dangerous, dark part of our building that students couldn't access with ease and, quite frankly, didn't even want to go in. Our locker rooms hadn't been updated since 1972. I was met with the typical government bureaucracy, red tape, and unanswered emails. It didn't seem to be like something that I was going to accomplish on the list that just got shoved to the bottom. But Charlie called me the next week and asked if he could come check them out and see what could be done. And within a week, a plan was put in motion. With hearts full of joy and determination, a group of men that I now call the Wheelbarrow Warriors descended on Kammerer Middle and hauled out every metal locker, every piece of concrete, every bit of debris until the space was empty and ready for paint. The students and staff in the building started referring to these men in the jeans with the wheelbarrows as the church. And they began to hear about what the church was up to and started sneaking into the locker rooms to check it out and see if the rumors were true. What I had spent 2 years trying to get accomplished, this congregation did in 2 weeks. And as I speak to you today, we are a week away from getting the last locker room painted. And because you took that task, the money that I had saved and penny pinched for years to try to match whatever funds the district might give me were then allocated towards our students with real needs, financial needs, who didn't sign up to play a sport because they couldn't afford the fee. I was able to offer them scholarship because of you. The support of this church has transformed my school and touched the hearts of students who desperately need to feel loved and valued. You have unleashed a wave of generosity that gives me and the students I serve hope and a renewed sense of purpose. You have taught young men that they can be loved and encouraged by complete strangers, that kindness and goodness still exist in a sometimes dark world. And you have shown our young girls that they too matter by making a space suitable for them to feel safe and confident. Ephesians 2 verse 10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do work, which God prepared in advance for us." You have done good work, Westport Road Baptist Church. For me, my staff, and my students, we are forever changed by knowing you. Thank you. Thank you.